My name is Princess Mariam Al-Saif, and I was only 18 years old when everything changed. The day was March 12, 2018, a date that is carved into my memory like a mark that will never fade. That morning, I woke up in a soft bed, surrounded by luxury, and by evening, I was standing in a cold hallway with guards around me, being taken away because of one thing. Someone found out I had been reading the Bible in secret. I grew up inside one of the royal families in Saudi Arabia, where obedience was the air we breathed and rules were the walls around our lives. From childhood, I was trained to behave like a princess, calm, perfect, controlled. My father was powerful and respected. My mother was graceful but always careful, moving as if the whole world was watching her. My brothers followed paths chosen for them, and I was expected to do the same. I studied in an elite school where everything was planned for us, our subjects, our friends, even our dreams. I learned languages, politics, and history. I dressed in the finest clothes. I attended royal events. People bowed when I walked by, but none of that filled the quiet emptiness I carried inside me, the feeling that something important was missing. My life was surrounded by guards, high walls, rules, and expectations. There was no space for questioning, and even curiosity felt dangerous. Anything outside our belief system was forbidden, completely closed off. My interest in Christianity started like a very small whisper in my heart. It wasn't loud, it wasn't rebellious, it was just curious. A close friend at school once revealed to me that she followed Jesus, and she spoke softly about how her faith made her feel peace. She didn't try to change me, she simply shared her experience, and the calm look on her face stayed in my mind long after. Later, she quietly showed me that she read from a digital Bible app hidden deep inside her phone. She explained how those words gave her strength on nights she felt alone. She didn't give me direct sentences, but she explained the meaning she found inside those pages. And for reasons I couldn't explain, her peace touched something inside me. I began to wonder what made her different. That small curiosity grew. I downloaded my own hidden copy of the Bible on a device I kept locked away in my room. Late at night, when everyone slept, I read tiny parts, just a few lines. I didn't understand everything, but the words felt warm, soft, and full of a kindness I had never seen before. I didn't know that this simple act was enough to bring danger to my door. On the morning of March 12th, I noticed something was wrong the moment I opened my eyes. My room felt too quiet, too watched. Before I could gather my thoughts, guards entered my room. Their faces were cold, their footsteps were heavy. One of them held my hidden device in his hand, and the sight of it made my heart drop. I felt my chest grow tight, as if fear had wrapped its hands around me. I asked myself over and over how they found it, who told them, what would they do to me? I tried to speak, but fear locked my voice deep inside. They told me I was being taken for questioning. They said I had broken rules I was never allowed to break. Their words hit me like waves of ice as they led me down the hallway. I felt as though every step was taking me farther from everything I had ever known. In that moment, I realized this was only the beginning of a storm I was not prepared for. I did not know that I was walking into a long season of pain, pressure, and punishment. I did not know how much I would lose, and I definitely did not know that in the deepest darkness, something holy and unexpected was waiting for me. They led me out of my room that morning, and everything around me felt too bright and too quiet at the same time. My feet moved, but I felt like I was floating, like I wasn't even in my own body anymore. I kept wondering if this was a dream, but the heavy steps of the guards beside me reminded me that nothing about this was a dream. We walked through a long hallway inside the palace, a place I had walked many times before, but that day it felt like a tunnel that was closing in on me. The guards did not look at me, and that silence made my fear even stronger. I wanted to understand what was happening, but my mind was spinning, trying to remember every tiny moment that could have led them to my secret Bible app. When we reached the lower part of the palace, the air became colder. I knew this area was used for questioning people who broke big rules. I never imagined I would be one of them. A door opened, and the guards guided me inside a small, empty room. The walls were plain, and the only sound was my heartbeat, loud and fast. Time felt strange in that room. Minutes stretched like hours. My thoughts were loud. How did they find out? What will they do to me? Will I ever see my family again? I wished I could disappear. I wished everything could go back to normal. But life doesn't bend backward when you want it to. After a while, a woman entered. She worked for the palace security team. She did not smile. She did not try to comfort me. She simply sat down and looked at me in a calm, sharp way. She slowly placed my device on the table, the same device where I had hidden the Bible app. She told me that someone had revealed to her that I was reading forbidden material. She explained that my actions were considered dangerous and unacceptable. Hearing her words felt like ice sinking into my stomach. I felt myself shaking slightly, not from the cold, but from the fear of what would happen next. I kept trying to understand who had told them. Maybe someone had seen me reading at night. Maybe someone had checked my device. Maybe someone had followed me. My mind couldn't stop searching for answers. She continued to tell me that I had broken a law. She said that my behavior had to be corrected. She said that I was going to be taken to a secure place where I would stay until they decided what to do with me. A secure place. I understood what that meant. It wasn't a room. It wasn't a lecture. It wasn't a warning. It was a prison. When they took me outside to the vehicle, the sun was bright, but my heart felt dark and heavy. I kept my eyes on the ground because looking around made everything feel too real. The streets of Riyadh passed by like a blur. People outside walked freely, not knowing what was happening to me inside that car. When we reached the detention place, the atmosphere changed. The building was plain and strong, with thick walls and tall fences. As I stepped inside, the air smelled different. Not like home, not like safety. It smelled like cold metal, like loneliness, like fear. A guard led me down a hallway with doors on both sides, some doors closed, some slightly open. I could hear faint sounds, someone coughing, someone whispering, someone crying softly. Every sound made my heart beat harder. When the guard opened the door to my cell, I froze for a moment. The room was small, with a simple bed, a small window high above, and walls that felt too close. The door shut behind me with a thud that made my body jump. I sat on the bed, hugging my arms around myself, trying not to cry. I tried to be strong, but tears came anyway, falling quietly down my face. I felt alone, scared and confused. I kept thinking of my life at the palace, my soft bed, my warm room, my quiet nights. Everything was gone in one day. The hours passed slowly. The door opened from time to time as guards came to check on me. One of them, a young woman, looked at me with eyes that were not unkind. She told me quietly, almost in a whisper, that she understood that I was afraid. She revealed that many people in that place cried on their first day. She didn't use exact words, but she showed me that she felt sorry for me, even though she could not do anything to help. That short moment of softness helped me breathe a little easier, but the fear never fully left. Night came and the room grew colder. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of everything pressing on me. I wondered if anyone in the palace cared that I was gone. I wondered if my mother knew. I wondered if God was listening. And somewhere between my tears and my thoughts, I realized something important. This was only the beginning of my suffering. I didn't know how long I would stay. I didn't know what choices they would force on me. I didn't know how much strength I would need. But deep inside me, even in that dark room, something small and warm refused to die. Something told me that I was not abandoned. Something told me that this pain would not be the end of my story. I held on to that tiny hope, even when everything else felt too heavy. I sat up slowly, wiping my face. The feeling grew warmer, calmer, like someone was placing a peaceful hand on my heart. I didn't see anything with my eyes, but inside me, I felt a presence, gentle, quiet, protective. I didn't hear a voice with my ears, but deep inside, I felt something telling me that I was not alone, that I was seen, that I was loved. It felt like someone was comforting me, telling me to be strong, telling me that this darkness would not crush me. The warmth stayed with me for a long moment, and for the first time since entering that place, I felt my breathing slow down. The fear softened, the sadness quieted, and a small hope rose inside me, like a tiny light in a deep cave. I lay back down, holding on to that feeling with all my strength. I didn't fully understand what had happened, but I knew it was not something normal. It felt holy. It felt real. And for the first time since my arrest, I slept without crying. The next morning, when the guards woke me, the fear was still there, but something else was there too. Strength. I didn't know what waited for me in the days ahead. I didn't know what decisions they would force on me. I didn't know how long I would remain locked up. But I knew one thing with all my heart. Someone had found me in the darkness. Someone had reached me. Someone had given me hope when everything inside me was falling apart. This was the beginning of something I could not yet understand, but it was the beginning of my faith becoming real. I sat up slowly, wiping my face. The feeling grew warmer, calmer, like someone was placing a peaceful hand on my heart. I didn't see anything with my eyes, but inside me, I felt a presence, gentle, quiet, protective. I didn't hear a voice with my ears, but deep inside, I felt something telling me that I was not alone, that I was seen, that I was loved. It felt like someone was comforting me, telling me to be strong, telling me that this darkness would not crush me. The warmth stayed with me for a long moment, and for the first time since entering that place, I felt my breathing slow down. The fear softened, the sadness quieted, and a small hope rose inside me, like a tiny light in a deep cave. I lay back down, holding on to that feeling with all my strength. I didn't fully understand what had happened, but I knew it was not something normal. It felt holy. It felt real. And for the first time since my arrest, I slept without crying. The next morning, when the guards woke me, the fear was still there, but something else was there too. Strength. I didn't know what waited for me in the days ahead. I didn't know what decisions they would force on me. I didn't know how long I would remain locked up. But I knew one thing with all my heart. Someone had found me in the darkness. Someone had reached me. Someone had given me hope when everything inside me was falling apart. This was the beginning of something I could not yet understand, but it was the beginning of my faith becoming real. I had been in that detention place for days, but it felt like years. Each morning, the same sounds greeted me: Heavy footsteps, cold doors opening and closing, distant whispers from people who were as scared as I was. I woke up with fear and went to sleep with fear. It was like the air itself carried pressure. One morning before sunrise, the guards came for me again. They knocked on the door, and the sound made my stomach twist. I stood up slowly, knowing that I had no choice. My legs felt weak, but they still carried me. When I stepped into the hallway, the cold air touched my face, reminding me once again that I was not free. They led me to another room, one I had not been in before. It felt darker, heavier, almost like the walls were watching me. A man and a woman from the palace security team sat inside. Their faces were serious, and neither of them smiled. They looked at me in a way that made my heart beat faster. The woman told me that my continued interest in the Bible was dangerous. She explained that girls like me, royal girls, were expected to follow rules without question. She revealed that my disobedience had caused shame to my family. The man added that I needed to understand how serious my situation was. He showed me a document with my name on it, explaining that it was a record of my behavior. Every word they said felt like a weight pressing on my chest. They wanted to test me. They wanted to see if fear would break me. They wanted to know if I would promise to stop reading anything related to the Bible. I stood there shaking because I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream that I never meant to cause trouble. Another part of me wanted to hide. And yet there was also a small part of me, a tiny part that remembered the warmth I felt in my cell, that quiet moment where I felt comforted and protected. Even though I didn't fully understand faith, I knew that something had reached me in my darkest moment, and that memory gave me strength. The man told me that if I wanted to be released, I needed to agree to follow every rule from that moment on. He told me I needed to show that my behavior had changed. He revealed that my future depended on the decision I made that day. My hands were shaking so badly I had to hold them together. Tears filled my eyes because the pressure felt too heavy. I didn't know what the right choice was. I didn't want to suffer anymore. I didn't want to be stuck in a cell. I missed my home, my room, my mother's gentle presence. But I also didn't want to lie about the tiny spark inside me, the spark that had given me comfort when I felt like I was drowning. For a long moment there was silence. The two officers sat waiting for my response. The pressure on me felt like a storm pushing against me from all sides. Finally, after what felt like forever, the woman told me that they would give me one more day to think. She explained that by the next morning, I needed to give them my final answer. The guards then returned me to my cell. When the door closed behind me, I fell to my knees. Tears poured out of me like water breaking through a wall. I cried because I was scared. I cried because I felt alone. I cried because the decision ahead of me felt impossible. As I cried, the same warmth from before returned. It was gentle, soft, like someone placing an invisible blanket over my heart. I felt comforted again, protected again. I didn't see anything with my eyes, but inside I felt a quiet message, one that reminded me I wasn't abandoned. That night, I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring. I didn't know if I would be punished again. I didn't know if they would let me go home or keep me for longer. But I did know one thing. Even if I was afraid, I was not alone anymore. And that small truth filled me with a courage I had never felt before. The next morning came, and with it my final moment. I was taken back to the same room. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, but deep inside I felt a strength that wasn't my own. I gave them the answer that I believed was right, the answer that followed the peace in my heart, the answer that came from the tiny spark of faith growing inside me. I didn't know how they would react. I didn't know what my life would look like after this. I didn't know what challenges were waiting for me, but I knew this was the moment my life would change forever. And it did. Please remember to pray for every Christian across the world who suffers for their faith. Many live in silence, hiding tears, hiding pain, hiding hope. Your prayers give them strength. And if you are reading this and feel far from God, or you want to begin a new life with Him, you can pray this simple prayer from your heart. God, I come to you today. I want your forgiveness and your love. Please help me turn away from my sins and follow the path you want for me. I believe you can change my life. Thank you for accepting me. If you prayed that sincerely, even in simple words, God hears you